What's up, YouTube? Zero here, and today I have an amazing Mega Ampharos and Oricorio deck in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll talk about each of these cards individually, and I'll talk about why this deck is absolutely amazing, why you should be checking it out, why it's definitely going to get you a decent amount of wins, especially if you're trying to grind ranked. Before I get into it, I do want to say if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I also do a bunch of other video games. I'm posting a lot on Black Ops 7, the most recent Call of Duty that just came out. So if you like Call of Duty as well, check those videos out. Definitely subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, time to talk about this Mega Ampharos deck. And what I'm going to start with is I am going to start with that Mega Ampharos EX card. Great Pokemon, pretty good card if you can get it going. Of course, only has one move, no ability, but Mega Ampharos EX, and just a reminder, any Mega card, if it is knocked out, you do lose all 3 points. So if your opponent is able to knock out this Mega Ampharos, you lose the game. They get 3 points, so just be wary that when you throw this into the active slot, you're going to need to make sure that it's in a good position to succeed. So for 1 colorless energy and 2 electric, so 3 energy total, it's Lightning Lancer is Mega Ampharos' attack for 100 damage. On top of that, one of your opponent's benched Pokemon is chosen at random 3 times. For each time a Pokemon was chosen, you also do 20 damage to it. So, if your opponent has 3 Pokemon on his or her bench, you have a possibility of doing 20 to each of those Pokemon. You have a possibility of doing 40 damage to one and 20 to another, or you have a possibility of doing 60 damage all to one Pokemon. If your opponent only has 1 Pokemon on his or her bench, you will do all 60 damage to that Pokemon. So depending upon how the match is going, how many Pokemon your opponent has played, you could potentially know where the damage is going to line up. You could see in the video right now, if I am facing this opponent, there is a chance that I could potentially KO one of his or her benched Pokemon because each of them have 50 HP or less. So if I deal 60 damage to just one of those Pokemon, I could potentially take out 2 Pokemon attacking the active Pokemon and 1 on the bench. So Mega Ampharos is a phenomenal card, but it can also be risky and reliant upon a little bit of chance, depending upon how many Pokemon your opponent has on his or her bench and how much HP your opponent has with those Pokemon on his or her bench. So while this is a decent card, you have to put it in the right scenarios for it to really succeed. And you could definitely get those depending upon how the game is going. There are also a bunch of Pokemon and supporting cast cards in this deck that really help Mega Ampharos succeed, especially because that 100 damage isn't a lot of damage for 3 energy. There are Pokemon in the game that deal way more damage than just 100, and especially with Mega Pokemon coming out, you can see Mega Ampharos has 210 HP. If I'm facing another Mega Ampharos EX, that's going to be 3 hits before I'm able to KO it. So it can be a lot of turns before you're able to KO an extremely powerful Pokemon. So the damage to the bench is going to be crucial. Putting Mega Ampharos EX in the right position to succeed is going to be crucial depending upon how the game is going. But Mega Ampharos EX is going to be found in the Mega Rising, Mega Altaria decks. So if you are looking for this card, that's where you're going to have to grind. I'm going to talk about Mareep really briefly because you do need Mareep to evolve into Mega Ampharos for 1 electric energy rear kick for 10 damage. Nothing to write home about. This is also going to be found in the Mega Rising, Mega Altaria decks. But let's talk about the card that's really going to provide a lot of assistance to Mega Ampharos, and that's going to be Oricorio. Oricorio is almost a must in every electric deck, if not other decks. I know there are other decks out there that put Oricorio in it just to stonewall EX Pokemon. Oricorio is still a phenomenal card, still can really stonewall your opponents, especially if they only have EX cards. So Oricorio, for those of you who don't know, has an ability called Safeguard. What Safeguard does is it prevents all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX. That means Mega Pokemon EX or normal EX cards cannot directly damage Oricorio. There are ways around this, but it is a slow grind for your opponent to defeat Oricorio. For example, Darkrai and its ability, every time you attach a dark energy to Darkrai, you do 20 damage to the opponent's active Pokemon. That can damage Oricorio. Mega Blaziken EX, while it cannot directly damage Oricorio, can burn Oricorio, and the burn damage will eat through Oricorio. So again, there are ways around Oricorio's ability for EX Pokemon. However, Oricorio can still slow down your opponent, and if your opponent doesn't have indirect ways of attacking Oricorio with their EX Pokemon, they need another Pokemon to damage Oricorio, or they're gonna slow burn or even be stopped in their tracks. So Oricorio is phenomenal pairing with Mega Ampharos for several reasons. One, Oricorio can slow down or stop your opponent dead in their tracks. This is going to allow you to build up the necessary energy on Mega Ampharos prior to putting it into that active slot. I did say if your Mega Ampharos goes down, you lose the match. So you really want to protect it as much as possible and not put it into the active slot until you are absolutely ready. Oricorio can also deal a little bit of damage. For 2 energy, 1 electric, 1 colorless, it's Zap for 50, so it can slowly whittle away your opponent's Pokemon. It may not completely decimate an opposing team, but it can do at least a little bit of damage while you're building up that energy onto your benched Pokemon. But more importantly, you are stopping your opponent from attacking with their EX Pokemon. So either they have to find a Pokemon in their deck that's not EX so they can damage you, or they have to find one way or another to damage your Oricorio or get Oricorio out of that active slot. So Oricorio can really slow down, if not stop your opponent in his or her tracks, so you can build up what you need on your bench and maybe get Mega Ampharos out there, dealing damage to your opponent's active Pokemon and also benched Pokemon. So that's where Oricorio really comes into play and can really help out. Oricorio can be found in the Celestial Guardians Solgaleo pack. So really phenomenal card, especially for every electric deck. Definitely recommend grinding for it if you have not obtained at least a couple of copies already. Next, let's talk about Zeraora. Zeraora is an okay card because of its ability. Can it get into the active slot and deal some damage? Absolutely, but it's not going to be really a game breaker. Every once in a while, it's going to come in handy, but really where it comes with its most use is just its ability, Thunderclap Flash. So at the end of your first turn, you take an electric energy from your energy zone and you attach it to Zeraora. So what this does do is it starts to swing the energy buildup in your favor. You can put 1 energy, or you automatically get 1 energy as long as you played Zeraora on your first turn. You get 1 energy from the energy zone onto Zeraora, so you start to build up energy that way. What this can do is it plays really nicely with Elemental Switch that I'll talk about in a second. So that's one way you can build up with Zeraora. It can also, if you really need to stall a little bit, give you an opportunity to put Zeraora into that active slot to deal 50 damage while you're stalling a little bit. Zeraora also has an attack for 2 electric energy, Lightning Claw for 50 damage. Zeraora can be found in the extra dimensional crisis packs. But that's really Zeraora's use, is starting that buildup of energy just in case you need it, and it goes really well with Elemental Switch. So I want to talk about Elemental Switch, then I'll come back to Pichu. So Elemental Switch, you move a fire, water, or electric energy, of course in this case it's going to be electric, from one of your benched Pokemon to your active Pokemon. So what this does is, as long as you're starting to build up energy, Zeraora really helps with this because you get a free energy at the end of your first turn. But as long as you're starting to build up that energy, you can utilize Elemental Switch to move it to your active Pokemon. So say you haven't gotten enough energy on your Mega Ampharos, but you want to put it into that active slot. If you have the energy on the Pokemon on your bench and you have an Elemental Switch in your hand, you can start moving that energy onto Mega Ampharos so you can start attacking right away. That's why Elemental Switch is going to be crucial, especially when paired with Zeraora, because you can move energy as you want to the active Pokemon and really start attacking with whatever Pokemon you put into that active slot. Could be an Oricorio, perhaps you never got any energy on your Oricorio. You can take one energy from the energy zone. You can move an electric energy from one of your benched Pokemon onto your Oricorio and start attacking that way. But it's a great way to maneuver electrical energy around your team so you can utilize a good strategy to start attacking your Pokemon. It can also help counter a card like Sabrina, where your opponent may try and get one of your Pokemon out of that active slot that has a lot of energy buildup. You can utilize Elemental Switch to move to a Pokemon in the active slot that may have been forced there that may not have any energy on it. So it's a great card for a lot of different reasons, but it's really useful, especially when paired with Zeraora. An Elemental Switch can be found in the Wisdom of Sea and Sky Lugia packs. Next, let's talk about Pichu. Pichu's pretty obvious, but Pichu, going to be found in the Wisdom of Sea and Sky Lugia packs as well, has Crackly Toss. You take an electric energy from your energy zone and you attach it to one of your benched basic Pokemon. And this is at no cost. So if you start the match with Pichu, you get to put it into the active slot. Even if you get the first turn, you can start building up energy. Now, something to note is you can only attach energy to a benched basic Pokemon. So if you have evolved your Mareep into your Mega Ampharos, you cannot attach energy with Pichu onto your Mega Ampharos. This is another scenario where Elemental Switch could come into play. Perhaps either you made a mistake and evolved too soon, you forgot that Pichu only attaches energy onto benched basic Pokemon. I know I do that a lot. Or perhaps you just wanted to evolve because you knew your opponent may have a card such as a Mars or a red card. You were fearful of that and you just wanted to evolve to make sure you got your Mega Ampharos onto the playing field. But that's why Elemental Switch is again crucial, because you can attach an electric energy onto a benched basic Pokemon with your Pichu and then switch it onto your Mega Ampharos if you have already evolved. So it's a phenomenal card to start building up that energy. Next, let's talk about Rare Candy. You need Rare Candy in this deck because I don't have the Stage 1 from Mareep to Mega Ampharos. So Rare Candy, in terms of this deck, if Mareep has been on the playing field for at least one turn, and Rare Candy and Mega Ampharos is in my hand, I get to evolve right into Mega Ampharos, skipping the Stage 1. So it's a really great card to have. Really nice, especially to evolve into Stage 2. I know there are some cards that are limiting the use of Rare Candy, Chingling being one of them, but it is still a great card to have, especially if you can deal with Chingling or other cards that may prevent you from evolving with Rare Candy. It is a phenomenal card to have. And Rare Candy can be found in the Celestial Guardians pack. Next, a couple of cards that are pretty basic in every deck. 2 Pokeballs, you put a random basic Pokemon from your deck into your hand, and 2 Professor's Researches, you draw 2 cards. Last but not least, I have 2 Cyruses. Now, Cyrus is a phenomenal card, especially with this deck. So what Cyrus does is you switch in one of your opponent's benched Pokemon that has damage on it to the active spot. So what's nice about this is Mega Ampharos deals damage to the bench. So if you deal damage to a Pokemon and don't finish it off on your opponent's bench, but it's weakened enough for Mega Ampharos to take it out, you may want to utilize Cyrus to pull that Pokemon into the active slot so you can take it out and be guaranteed that KO. That's why I love 2 Cyruses in this deck. Phenomenal card, and it can be found in the Space Time Smackdown Palkia pack. If you don't utilize Cyrus, there are, of course, other cards. If you don't want 2 Cyruses, you could switch out one of the Cyruses for different support cards depending on your pleasure. I do like 2 Cyruses in terms of this deck, but one card that I've really contemplated putting in this deck instead of 1 Cyrus, so keeping 1 Cyrus and putting in a May. So May is a supporter card. For those of you who don't know, you put 2 random Pokemon from your deck into your hand. For each Pokemon you put into your hand this way, you choose a Pokemon to shuffle from your hand into your deck. One of the reasons why I've contemplated May is because there have been several battles where my 2 Mega Ampharoses have been buried at the bottom of my deck. I'm down to my last 5 cards, and I haven't pulled a Mega Ampharos yet. So May can be a way of preventing this, so I can get it earlier in the battle if I am able to draw my supporter card May. That's one of the reasons why I've contemplated it, but I've eventually landed on just utilizing 2 Cyruses. But May is an option if you want to have a little bit benefit of sacrificing a couple of cards in your hand to try and pull some cards from your deck. A couple of cards in your hand that may not be of use. As I mentioned earlier, after your first turn, Zeraora really doesn't have much use. Pichu may also not have much use after the first few turns, although Pichu, because it does have energy buildup, may be a little bit more useful, but Zeraora, you may want to sacrifice it to try and find cards in your deck. And may can be found in the Mega Rising, Mega Blaziken packs. So that's the deck. Let me know what you think of this deck in the comments section. What are some cards you would switch in to make this deck even better? Let me know in the comments section. If there's a Pokemon you'd like to see a deck around, let me know and I'll get it done. Hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, peace.